He came unannounced. He didn't tell me. I was unaware that he was coming or had plans even to come. At 3:28, he comes through the door. I was asleep, and to my knowledge, Trey was asleep. So we sleepy. It's 3 in the morning. I wake up to shots.
16 shots. 16 ruptures in the quiet of a sleeping house. 16 reasons a young father never made it back to his son.
He's scratching.
That's okay.
It's Daddy.
Yes.
Who's that right there? Who's that?
That's
It's
how I walk in.
Huh?
Before the police lights, before the screams, before the frantic 911 call that didn't even come from the person standing in the room, there was a moment, a single, irreversible moment when a man walked through a door believing he was stepping into safety. A door he'd opened 100 times. A code he'd entered without fear. A home he thought he still belonged to. But on this night, someone else was waiting on the other side. Imagine it. 3:28 a.m. The world outside, still dark. The air heavy and silent. A father takes off his shoes, a sign he's settling in, not intruding, and climbs the stairs toward the room where his child sleeps. He isn't angry. He isn't armed. He isn't expecting danger. He's expecting love, or maybe reconciliation, or at the very least, peace. What he finds instead is a man in his place. And within seconds, the air erupts with gunfire. 16 muzzle flashes. 16 pieces of metal tearing backward through space and flesh. 16 opportunities for anyone to stop. But no one does. And as the smoke hangs in the bedroom where 3 people once breathed, one question settles into the darkness like dust. Was this self-defense or something far more deliberate? Welcome to True Crime Watch HD. Hit subscribe because what you're about to hear isn't just a crime. It's a collision of love, betrayal, fear, ego, and lies. A story where every version contradicts the last, and where the truth has to be dug out of whispers, wounds, and the spaces between 16 gunshots. Tyrie Richardson was 20 years old when his life ended in that bedroom. A life full of ambition, contradictions, second chances, and scars, both seen and unseen. Raised in a close, tight-knit family, he was the youngest child, the one everyone described as bright, determined, restless, in the way only dreamers are. He was a father, a budding musician performing under the name FSO Gunk, an entrepreneur running a food truck and a dog breeding business, and a young man really trying, to grow into the kind of man his son could be proud of. But to understand why his final moments unfolded in violence, you have to understand the emotional terrain he was walking through long before he walked up those stairs. You have to understand the woman he loved, the man she was with, the history the 3 of them shared, and the events, some buried, some brazen, that rattled the weeks, months, and years leading up to the shooting. Because this tragedy didn't begin at 3:28 a.m., it began the first time love turned into suspicion. The first time betrayal became a habit. The first time a warning sign was ignored. And the story of how a relationship cracked open into chaos starts with a girl named Autumn Anderson, Tyrie's first love, the mother of his child, and the woman who would later be standing just feet away when a man named Terrence Yansy raised a gun and fired 16 times. Their love story was messy from the start, magnetic, intoxicating, but unstable. The kind of relationship where affection and resentment exist in the same breath. They broke up, reconciled, accused, forgave, hurt each other, and tried again. And yet, through everything, Tyree held on to the idea of family as tightly as he could. He wanted to be a better man, a better partner, a better father. And for a while, he tried to prove it. But Autumn had grown distant. Her attention wandered. Her loyalties blurred. And a man named Trey began to appear more and more often, quietly at first, then unmistakably, until he was no longer a shadow, but a permanent presence in a relationship already cracking at the seams.
Autumn, I am Tyree's son's mother. I am who the FSO Gunk story on Instagram is about. I'm finally coming on here to say something after almost 2 weeks of all of this starting, because I know why it's starting. I know the objective, and I wanted to get in front of it before the rumors and the lies and the manipulative, theories and things like that are being put out about me get too far. I feel like they already kind of have gotten too far, and I was going to stay quiet because this is something that's happened almost 2 years ago. And for me to, relive something that happened from 2 years ago that to this day I'm still healing from, I'm still trying to move forward from, it was very hard for me to choose what I should do. So I met both Tyrie and Trey. When I first met Tyrie, I met him in 2017. I met him in my freshman year of high school. We didn't start dating until the end of my 10th grade year in high school. I had moved out, I moved with my grandparents, and I had ended up transferring schools. When I transferred schools, me and him, we were closer in proximity as far as like the area that I was living in, and so it was we just started hanging out, started getting closer, and we ended up dating. We ended up breaking up in the summer of 2019 in June. Now, in the summer of 2019 when we broke up is when I met Trey. Trey is who killed him the night of June 13th. When I met Trey through a mutual friend of mine who I've been friends with for years prior to. I met him the day I was going to my mom's house. My mom was having a cookout. And I went to my friend's house to go pick her up for the cookout, and he was there. They knew each other through some family stuff, and just called each other brother and sister or whatever the case may be. Now, that was in 2019. Trey had ended up coming with me and my friend to my mother's house for the cookout. This is in June of 2019. Mind you, me and Tyrie break up. It's fresh. It just happened. So I didn't really know Trey. I knew of him. He had been around in a couple of occasions, but we never formally met up until this day. Since then, we just started to get to know each other from that cookout. Now, even though Trey and I, we never dated. We were never boyfriend and girlfriend, but we did get very, very close, and we got almost to that point with each other. Now, in the whole summer, Tyrie was doing his thing, I was doing my thing. We didn't rekindle up until Labor Day. Is it Labor Day weekend? I think it's Labor Day. I think it's Labor Day in September. School had just started, I believe, and he had hit me up and was just like, let's try it out again. Let's try to, make shit right between us. And we did just that, but it was not exclusive. I was not exclusive to him. And he knew that. He knew who I was dealing with, I believe, through Instagram at the time. I'm not too sure about when he found out who I was dealing with or how he found out who I was dealing with, but he did not know him. They did not know each other. After him reaching out to me to rekindle, I was dealing with the both of them. Now, this is the part where I want to interject, because I know I was dealing with the both of them. They both knew that I was dealing with the both of them. Trey and Tyrie, they never crossed paths. They did both speak on the phone on both ends. One day I was over Tyrie's house. Trey had called me. Tyrie had answered. They exchanged words. And one time I was over Trey's house. Tyrie had called me, and Trey had answered, and they exchanged words. So I do want to add that part in because that's important as well in this story. Only just because I just want to emphasize the fact that they never crossed paths, they never met, but they definitely did have words exchanged during that time period. If you're young and you're dealing with more than one person, then you know how that is. And on social media, everybody's just acting like that they've never been in that situation. But, to each his own. Now, me and Trey ended up getting closer towards the end of the year of 2019. So I want to say November, December, January, we were starting to get closer. And I was starting to lean more on the side of, taking him serious on a relationship aspect of things. I had ended up going through his phone January of 2020, saying something I didn't like. And so I started talking back to Tyrie again. Now, me and Trey had ended things. We ended things. I left his house. It was a whole, like, you know, argument between him and I. Left his house, and I started talking back to Tyrie again. I would say March, we ended up getting back together officially. And only because COVID had hit. And when COVID hit, we weren't going to school physically anymore. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, I live with my grandparents. I used to take clients out of my basement in my grandparents' house. When COVID hit, they're older. The idea of me taking clients in the house, it was just a no. So I started taking clients in Tyree's house, and I started taking clients at my friend's house. I ended up staying at Tyree's house from that because I would take clients every day. I just wouldn't end up going back home. At the time, I'm 17. At the end of March, beginning of April, I had got pregnant with my son. When I got pregnant with my son, that kind of sealed the deal as far as like my living arrangements. I just ended up like moving into his house, like slowly but surely going back home, getting more clothes, bringing my stuff over there, things like that. After we decided to, you know, go through with my pregnancy, we were really trying to make things work for, you know, what we were about to be, which was a family at that time. Things got rocky between Tyrie and I at the very end of my pregnancy. My cousin had called me. It was 3 weeks before our baby shower. And it's some girl on Instagram, and she posting about Tyrie trying to fly her out, posting that they've been talking since the beginning of the year, which the beginning of the year is when I got pregnant. And so finding that out, I was like so stuck because I'm like, damn, you know, I'm 18 at the time. I had turned 18 in May, and I'm pregnant. I'm 8 months pregnant. So it's no going back on the decision, you know, to keep the baby. Everything is already prepared for my son when he gets here. So it was just like, I just felt very stuck. I felt dumb. I felt like, you know, like betrayed, like, you know, like he played me. Like if you've been pregnant or you have kids or you're pregnant, you just know how sensitive you are, you know, emotionally and mentally and things like that. So it fucked me up. But mind you, my baby shower in 3 weeks, and it's like, you know, what can I do? Now the only reason that I kept all this to myself, and I'm being so transparent, y'all, when I say like I'm gonna take accountability on my end and, you know, say my piece, like these were my real raw emotions. I felt stupid, and I didn't want anybody to know that, you know, it was kind of like a, you know, told you so type of moment, and I didn't want anybody to have like that upper hand or to be able to look at me and like with a judgmental eye, like nothing like that. So I kept it to myself. I kept everything to myself. The second major like event during my pregnancy that really like caused regret was my maternity shoot. My outfit didn't come on time, so I had to improvise the outfit. I had to change my whole concept idea. So many things had went wrong, and so we finally get there, and Tyrie, he says he gotta play. So I'm like, okay, like I'm thinking it's about to be something quick or to do it outside. If you know, you know what that is. But he never came back. He never came back to the maternity shoot. Like I literally had to call him when it was over with and shoot everything by myself. He didn't get in one picture with me. And so at that time, I just felt like, you know, like, is this something that he want, or like, you know, I'm kind of like realizing like this is something that I may have to go through by myself. I was very confused. I was very stuck. I was just kind of like mentally preparing myself like, okay, this might not go as planned. So it wasn't until my son was born, my son's birthday, January 6th, I had him on a Wednesday. I woke up, Tyrie told me he was going downstairs to go get me breakfast, and he never came back. He left me in the hospital that whole day up until like 9:30 something at night. He didn't come back for that whole day. He left me in the hospital. I'm on a baby monitor, and he at home on the phone with another girl. I had crashed. I had gotten into a car accident when I was pregnant, so my car, we were only using his car. We were still living with his parents at the time. If this is that, then it's just that, and I can't go back on the decision now. My son is here. So we ended up leaving the hospital, and I will say that after I had my son, I like my whole emotions towards him changed because of how good he was with my son, with our son. That just like completely like changed like my whole trajectory, like of trying to get things and just get myself together to kind of like move on, move out. And again, like if you know me personally, you know I do have a lot of pride, so it was like I refused to go back home, and like, he was just like on daddy duty, like hands on. It wasn't like no dad or mom roles. Like he woke up at night, he was working. He really, you know, tried to put his best foot forward to make up for, you know, everything that I was feeling, that he knew I was feeling, and make it up by just being there for me, being there for Cody as well. I feel like Cody definitely brought us together, and we valued the family unit that we had established more than whatever else we was dealing with before then. May, he put a down payment on my car. I had got a car. So it was just like a lot. Like we was really moving in a positive direction. He had got a PPP loan, got the food truck. He ended up selling the food truck, and he reinvested all that money back into the bags. That's all that money. Like things were definitely just like very stable. Things really didn't get bad. December was like, for me, I was really like standing on, we just need to separate. We just need to go our own way. I guess he was upset about me terminating the pregnancy, but at the time it was just like, you know, how can you be mad that I want to terminate a pregnancy? So it just like reopened a can of worms for me, like just the trust and everything else. Everything was jeopardized. I had started talking to Trey. Now, Trey had called me. It was very ironic that he called me like right after everything had happened between me and Tyree. He had called me off a block number. When I answered, it was him, and we started speaking again. Mind you, I had just terminated the pregnancy, and I had just called Tyree on the phone with the girl. So when he called, I entertained it. I had seen him. We had went out, I seen him, and I started seeing him all the way up until January. I started talking to Trey again. Tyree had found out that I was talking to him. One day I had went out, and I believe like my iPad or something like that, he had seen the messages on my iPad and found out that I was talking to him again. We got into a big fight. He ended up punching me in my face, choking me, like just the whole nine. Like it was bad.
The emotional landscape was shifting, and Tyrie felt it. And then came the first moment that should have changed everything. A birthday ambush. A near-fatal attack on Tyrie 2 years before his death. A shooter hiding in the dark. A neighborhood startled awake. A young man sprinting for his life. And a list of people who knew where he was that night, a list short enough to deepen suspicion, fuel paranoia, and leave a scar that never fully healed. Yet despite all of it, the doubts, the distance, the bruises on both sides, the late-night arguments, and early morning reconciliations, Tyrie stayed tethered to Autumn. He stayed tethered to their son. He stayed tethered to the belief that love could still be salvaged, even when the relationship was burning down around them. He told her he could change. He told her he was ready to fix things. He told her he wanted to build a future. She told him she didn't. And while heartbreak can bruise a man, it was the secrecy, the things unspoken, the nights unaccounted for, the sudden coldness that carved deeper fractures into the foundation beneath him. Still, nothing in the unraveling of their relationship pointed clearly to murder. Nothing suggested what would happen the night Tyrie entered that house, the house he'd been inside countless times, the house where his son slept, the house he still believed was safe. But that belief would be the very thing that killed him. What no one saw from the outside was how rapidly the fault lines beneath this relationship were widening. In private, the conversations between Tyrie and Autumn were no longer about building a family, but about surviving one. Their communication had become a battlefield of apologies layered over confessions, tears mixed with frustration, truth tangled with manipulation. Tyrie, desperate to salvage the pieces, kept reaching for closeness, but every time he extended his hand, it met a colder, more distant version of the woman he loved. Autumn had emotionally checked out long before anyone admitted it. The recordings and messages that surfaced later painted their world in raw, jagged strokes. Tyrie was open about his mistakes, the anger, the jealousy, The times he pushed too far and didn't pull back soon enough. He wasn't proud of the man he had been, but he was trying in the messy, imperfect way that most 20-year-olds do when they're caught between the lessons they never learned and the future they hope to earn. His hope clung to the belief that change was still possible. Autumn, however, wasn't looking for redemption. She was looking for exit signs. She had already begun detaching herself, emotionally and physically. The warmth that once tethered their family had thinned into tolerance, then into obligation, and eventually into something approaching resentment. While Tyrie held on to the relationship with both hands, Autumn held on to it with only one, and even that grip was loosening. The affection that had once been unquestionable became strategic, offered only when conflict threatened to spill over, or when silence became too heavy to bear. And in the quiet spaces between their disagreements, another man began to fill the void. Terrence Yansy was not an overnight development. His presence had grown gradually, almost invisibly, the way a storm forms miles away before anyone notices the change in the wind. He was younger than Autumn, but she described him as calm, attentive, uncomplicated, everything her relationship with Tyree was not. What began as casual communication deepened into something more intimate, until Trey was no longer just another person in her circle, but a contender for the space Tyree believed was still his. To Tyree, this shift was more than betrayal. It was destabilizing. It blurred the borders of trust, pushing him into a state of uncertainty where every unanswered call felt like a threat, every unexplained absence a warning. Yet even while Autumn drifted further into Trey's orbit, Tyree stayed anchored in hope. He believed he could repair what was breaking, that loyalty and effort would eventually outweigh every wrong he had committed. But relationships rarely collapse from one person's failures alone. Behind closed doors, both of them were hurting each other in ways neither knew how to stop. Their arguments escalated quickly. Accusations became familiar. Apologies became currency. Toxic love, once ignited, has its own gravity, painful, addictive, dangerous. All the while, Trey's presence grew stronger. He wasn't just a name in Autumn's phone or a shadow in her stories. He became someone she leaned on, someone she trusted, someone who offered the emotional refuge Tyree could no longer give her. And as Trey's role increased, Tyree's fear did too, not because he feared losing Autumn, but because the situation carried a different kind of danger. A man's pride, especially when tethered to fatherhood and a fragile relationship, can twist into desperation. Tyree wasn't just fighting for love anymore. He was fighting for identity, for respect, for the place he believed was his. Still, no one could have predicted the scale of what would happen next. In the months leading up to the shooting, tension seeped into every corner of their lives. Tyree visited more often, checking on his son, trying to keep the connection alive. Autumn became more withdrawn, choosing carefully what she revealed and when she revealed it. Trey began appearing more in her routine, until he felt like a fixture rather than a visitor. But even amid the turmoil, there were moments fleeting and fragile where Tyree believed things could still be repaired. He spoke to her earnestly, pleading for a final chance, promising growth, asking her to see the man he was trying to become. He talked about building a home, not just sharing one. He spoke about their son needing stability, not conflict. And for brief flashes, it seemed as though Autumn might soften. But emotionally, she was already gone. She had one foot in another relationship, and the other planted just far enough behind her to avoid confronting the consequences of her choices. And when conflict is avoided, it grows teeth. The more she withheld, the more Tyree pushed for clarity. The more he tried to hold the relationship together, the more rapidly it disintegrated. As the days passed, Autumn and Trey began spending nights together in her mother's home, the same home Tyree still visited, the same home he still believed was his family's safe space. It was a volatile setup, a love triangle compressed into the walls of a single house, a pressure cooker waiting for ignition. And then came the night that changed everything. Around 3 a.m., Autumn and Trey were in bed, wrapped in a quiet that was likely meant to hide them from thoughts they didn't want to face. The house was still, the world was asleep. Then the faint sound of the door code. Beep, 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 beep. Tyree had returned, not unexpectedly, not unlawfully, but exactly as he had always done. He wasn't loud. He wasn't breaking in. He wasn't hiding. He walked into the home believing he was entering the space where his family lived. He removed his shoes, a small, human detail that would later haunt investigators, and moved through the hallway with the familiarity of someone who belonged there. Upstairs, the bedroom door opened. From here, the accounts diverge. One version claims Trey woke to the sound of someone entering, grabbed a gun, and fired in fear. Another version suggests there was confrontation, shouting, chaos. But the forensic evidence, the angles, the entry wounds, the locations of the casings paints a different picture altogether. One where Tyree was not facing the shooter, one where he may have been near or on the bed, one where retreat was never an option. 16 shots. Not one, not two, 16. The sheer number alone challenged every claim of panic or self-defense. Bullets tore through his back, neck, and head. Most were fired from behind, some from above. When the shooting stopped, the house fell silent. The shooter fled. And the woman in the room, the mother of Tyree's child, did not call 911. She called her sister. Chaos followed. Screams, instructions, CPR attempts, distant sirens. A life slipped away before help arrived. Lying on the floor, surrounded by blood and discarded casings, Tyree's body testified to a violence no narrative could soften. Investigators later found inconsistencies everywhere in timelines, in statements, in the physical evidence, in the behavior immediately after. The deeper they looked, the more questions emerged. The more questions emerged, the more the public probed. And beneath it all, one truth rippled outward. Someone's story wasn't matching the science. Nothing about that night would ever be simple again. The aftermath of a killing is never silent. Even when the gunfire stops, the echoes find new places to live, in families, in courtrooms, in whispers that drift through neighborhoods long after the crime scene tape comes down. And in the days following Tyrie Richardson's death, those echoes grew louder, sharper, and more tangled. Detectives walked into a scene that raised more questions than answers. They saw the obvious blood, brokenness, a young man's body riddled with bullets, but it was the subtleties that unsettled them. The trajectory of the shots, the placement of the casings, the angles in which the bullets entered, the absence of signs that Tyree had fought back or lunged, all of it clashed violently with the narrative that began circulating. Self-defense is simple when it's true. This wasn't simple. Interviews started immediately. The inconsistencies, small at first, then glaring, began surfacing as investigators listened. The story of a sudden threat didn't align with a man who removed his shoes and walked calmly into a home he believed he was welcome in. The claim that he was shot while standing in the doorway fractured under the weight of forensic mapping that suggested the opposite. And the timeline, that fragile backbone of any criminal case, bent in places where it should have stayed straight. Why was 911 not called immediately? Why the call to a sibling first? Why was the shooter gone before anyone outside the house even knew what happened? Why was the fear described in statements not reflected in the physical evidence? Questions became their own kind of storm. Meanwhile, across town, Tyree's parents were living through a different kind of agony, the kind that doesn't resolve, doesn't fade, doesn't even soften at the edges. They weren't thinking about forensics or timelines or bullet casings. They were thinking about their son, a son who had hugged them days earlier, a son who was trying to straighten out the rough edges of his life, a son who had plans, who had dreams, who had a child who adored him, and now he was gone. They learned, piece by devastating piece, what had happened in those early morning hours. They learned how many times he had been shot. They learned where the bullets entered. They learned that his back carried most of the wounds. They learned that he likely fell quickly, that he may not have even had time to register what was happening. And they learned that the woman he loved was in the room when the shooting happened, a detail that would never sit comfortably in their hearts. Their grief wasn't quiet. It came out in sobs, in trembling voices, in the kind of disbelief that fractures a family's foundation. They cried for justice. They cried for answers. They cried because their son didn't deserve to die like that alone on a bedroom floor where he thought he was safe. But justice, like truth, is complicated.
Give me a second. 2 years later, I had finally decided to tell his story. People that have never been through this can't judge me. They can't tell you the pain that I experience daily. It's a feeling when you wake up every single morning and your heart is broke, and you look forward to going to bed every single night just so that's the only relief of pain that you get. And that's 2 years later. So when I decided to share Tyree's story, it was for the benefit of his son, Cody. A couple weeks ago, I decided that I was gonna stop my attempts for trying to see his son. The reasoning for that and the reasoning for all of this was through everything that happened, through all the situations, through court, through all of that, I always wanted to keep his son's best interests forefront. I didn't care about nothing else. I didn't care about who did what, who said what, who felt some type of way about me. I didn't care about any of that. All I cared about was Cody, making sure Cody was straight, the way that I knew that my son loved him. And so after attempts of trying to see him, I was disrespected one time too many. And people that know me, people that really know me, know that I could take a lot, but I'm not going to take but so much. And so I had to accept the fact that Cody, when he gets older, whenever that is, I wanted him to search for his father and find out the truth. And so that's how this story started. So, again, ever since Tyree's death, especially after his trial, I was approached several times on telling his story, whether right, wrong, indifferent. And I always said no. Like, I don't want to shed this story. I want to just make sure, the people that's involved, everybody's protected. Then, after that last attempt, I put my guards down and I said, let's just do what we got to do. So when the story first started, the first couple days, I was behind Tyree's page. I was the one celebrating, talking about him, talking about his life and his legacy and all of that type of stuff. One of my good girlfriends is a publicist, and she said, we have to make sure that this is done correctly, legally, correctly. If we're going to tell it, we're going to tell it correctly. So she took over the story, and we both want to thank her, because when she took over the story took a complete change. It's on national levels. When I tell you, I see every DM you guys send. We love you. Whether you send it to his page, whether you send it to me, whether you send it to his dad, whether you text me, whether you call me, we get them. And I can't answer everybody, but I do want to let you know that I appreciate it, because this is exactly what he would have wanted. As you guys know, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time speaking on irrelevancy, because a lot of it's irrelevant, but as you guys know, Tyree was murdered on June the 13th. Whatever variations of the story you want to believe, it doesn't matter to me, but he was murdered in a place that he thought he called home. Okay, he was at this place that he rested his head at, and he thought it was his home. So for whatever reason that took him to that place that night, I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm not in his mind. I can only go on what preceded him and what I learned after the fact. And what we learned after the fact through his messages, through all of his attempts, he didn't go to that residence by no accounts expecting what he expected. As a parent, I have always made it my duty to allow my kids. We felt like we raised our kids to be family oriented. They have one mother, one father. We have 4 children together. We didn't show them. Hold on one second. We didn't show them indecencies. We always showed them how important family was. Whether you argue, whether you fight, like, it's important to have that backbone in your family. So we taught them that at an early age. It's evident from his attempts is he was trying the same thing for his family. One thing that I can say that I regret is allowing him to try to find his way for someone who did not want what he wanted. And I wish if I could go back 2 years that I could have told him that you're better. You're a lot better than that. Like, I don't care what you do, what you say, you deserve so much better. He made it a point to keep his family business away from us, which rightfully so. His problems he didn't never really share with us, and I wish he would have, because I could have gave him motherly advice that could have possibly saved his life. So if I want to talk about what I regret, that's what I regret. I feel like he lost his life for the love of his life, and I honestly feel that. No matter what she says or what she does, she can't change that. She knows. No matter what, she knows deep down. Whatever she wants to portray for the internet, that's on her. Whatever she wants to portray for the masses, that's on her. But deep down in her heart, she absolutely knows what the truth was. Now, a few things we do want to clarify. I never said that she set him up. We told the story. The story as we learned it in court, after court, through detectives. The social media took the black and white and came to with their own conclusion of what happened. So don't blame social media and what's actually portrayed as the truth that we kept a secret to hide behind that. And at the end of the day, her family, his family will never, ever feel the way that we feel, because they didn't lose a child. If you don't know what it's like to be heartbroken every single day, you can't judge me. You can't judge his father. We hold each other up every single day. When we wake up, he goes to work and he'll send me a message and say, I want to encourage you today. It's those things that keep me going each day. As a parent, you should never have to bury your child and then have to bury your child and have to deal with the pain after you bury your child. When people make fun of somebody else's death, God has his own vengeance. That's not a vengeance for me. That's not a vengeance for him, and that's not a vengeance for our angel. God will handle his own vengeance. God knows exactly what happened, exactly what the intentions were, and exactly what the expectations were. I'm not here to judge anyone. So no matter what she says about me or my family, it's irrelevant. Words, when we grew up, my mother always told me words don't hurt you. Your words will never hurt me. What you did do that hurt me was you took something that was important, which was my son. So you can say whatever you want to say. You can never give me back what I brought into this world. And then to laugh it off, you and whoever else, I want you to understand, and I want to say this clearly, it's not a game. It's not a game. It's only two people in this world that I wish this pain on. Two. And I have friends and I have enemies. You can be my enemy and I still wouldn't wish this type of pain on you. But there are two people. And those two people are the murderer, his mother. She needs to feel my pain. I wish every day that I go to bed that when she wakes up, she feels this pain. Because she will never understand the pain that a mother has to bury. She'll never understand that until she goes through it. She gets to see her son. She gets to call her son. She gets to put money on his commissary. She gets to see him in 15 years or however many years when he comes home. So she'll never understand my pain. The only other person is her mom. The reason why her mom needs to experience this pain is because as a mother, you can't justify you can't make light of what your child did. And until you experience one of your children being buried, you're never going to understand my pain. You're never going to understand my purpose because it hasn't happened to you. Right now, your only focus is to protect your child, not realizing your child puts other people in a situation to lose their child. So I don't expect you to feel my pain. But one day, when you do, whether you admit it or not, you'll say, I understand how she felt and why she felt that way. Until then, you'll never understand the pain that we experience. So again, I personally want to thank everybody that has reached out. My God, the support, the state's attorney, the support of people calling in is unbelievable. Unbelievable. The detectives knew what they were dealing with. They knew it wasn't all truth to the story. But sometimes timing is everything, right? Timing is everything. So we decide to celebrate Tyree's life, his legacy. You feel like you have to defend yourself. And in defending yourself, you actually tell some of the truths that was never told before. And what you have to realize, you should never forget what you say or do. Because one thing is when you're honest, the truth is the truth. Whether it's now or 2 years later, you're never going to forget what you say. When you're not honest, you end up telling on yourself. And you end up telling the truth. So whatever that may be, I'm going to pray for you. Because you need it. And at the end of the day, what's coming, you deserve. Now, anybody that knows me, and nobody can tell you no different, they can do an interview, 2, 4, 20 of them. I don't care what you do. One thing you'll never be able to do in those interviews is pull any black and white on what Tyree's mother, ever said in a disrespectful manner to anybody. I always kept a clear conscience for the support of my son and his memory. I never, ever, whether I felt it or not, whether I believed it or not, I never, ever called you out your name, disrespected you, said anything negative about you, ever. And I don't have no reason to lie. I'm 45 years old. Now, ask me today, no, I don't like you. Now I watch what has happened. I absolutely don't like you. And I understand why you felt like I shouldn't have liked you. Because you always felt in your guilty conscience, you always felt that his family didn't like you. Now I see why. And I don't. And the world knows it now. Prior to this moment, I never felt that way. But now that you showed me who I always knew you were, I'm letting you know I don't. And I understand why you would have to lie and portray that my family is this evil people that we were never were to you. You live with us. You didn't live with your parents. You didn't live with your family. You lived with us. We took care of you. When you had nobody else to take care of you, we never turned our back on you. When you had nobody else. Let's be absolutely clear. Your mother wasn't there. I didn't meet your mother till 2 years after you was with Tyree. If we're telling the truth, let's tell it. You were in my house. You ate my food. You laid in my bed. And then to say that this family who took you in as their own are these evil people, you're absolutely crazy. And I hope that you get the help that you absolutely deserve, because you need help. You need a lot of help. Because in your mind, what you believed about us is what we should have believed about you. And that's what you have shown us. You've shown us all of these mean things that you and your family have portrayed against my family is how we should have felt. How we should have felt. And thank you for showing me that. Because sometimes it takes time to show people who you absolutely are. But one thing is, once you show me once, you don't never have to show me again. Ever. Because I understand exactly what's in front of me. So, in this story, this is the absolute truth. Tyree walked into their home. He was murdered. There were two stories. One was that the person who murdered him waited for him to enter the room and shot him multiple times. He emptied the clip. He shot 16 times. The story soon changed when forensic evidence came out. And the forensic evidence stated that the person stood over the bed and shot at him. That's the absolute truth. So whether they were up, sleep, I don't know, but that is what happened. Okay? After he was shot, because that's what he is to me, call him the murderer. The murderer went on about his business, and the girl, whatever she is, asked her sister to call 911. The 911 tape was revealed. There was a few attempts to try to resuscitate him. The dog, the family dog that lived in the house, was more important than my son's body. Laying dead. She was looking for her dog. Whatever the dog, King, whatever the name was in the 911 tape, it says she's yelling out the door for the dog. My son is laying in the bedroom, dead. The reason why I share this is I don't care. It could be anybody. I don't have to know you. If a person is laying in front of me, lifeless, I'm going to make every attempt that I possibly can to try to save that person. At no point will an animal be more important than a lifeless body. At no point. Once that happened, I was called. As you saw from the transcript, I was called before 911 was called. We immediately got to try to figure out how to get there. I've never been to this house before, so I was asking for the address. in trying to get to this location, I'm calling my son. I'm calling everybody, like 911, like, we got to get here. I don't know what's going on. We have to get here. I was initially told, and I will never forget this, ever forget this. My exact words when I picked up the phone was screaming at her. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? It was 3:32 a.m. Do you know just about every single day I wake up at 3:32 a.m.? Just about every single day since that happened, I wake up at that exact time. It was screaming and hollering. And I said, oh my, Tyree's been shot. And I'm like, what happened? Oh my God, is he okay? It's the first thing I said, is he okay? She said, no. And I'm like, what happened? She said, someone ran in here and shot him. It's like, quote, unquote. I immediately called my son because they were together. So I'm like, did someone follow him home? I'm frantic, like I'm going off. And my son is like, I don't know, like he left the club. And so we were trying to figure it out. Through all of that, when we arrived on the scene, it was 2 officers. So I'm like, what hospital did he go to? Again, these are things I will never, ever forget, ever forget. And the officer said, he's not at a hospital. So what you mean he's not at a hospital? What hospital? Like, I'm freaking out. I'm screaming, hollering. So he's in the house. So at that point is when we knew he had passed away. My exact next question to the officer is, did you find out who did it? Did you find out who did it? And his exact words to me was her boyfriend. At that time, to me, that was news. So fast forward a week forward, Tyree called me. We were in Jamaica, and he said, Ma, I need to come home. And I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, I just need to get her space. We got some stuff going on. Like, I don't want to be here. It's his exact words. I have text messages. Through that, I said, of course, absolutely. Like, I'm never going to turn my back on my kids, ever. Absolutely. Come get. He said, me and Cody. Him and Cody. They didn't come Monday. They didn't come Tuesday. They still lived in that home those days. Wednesday is the first night of that week that he spent in our address. Through that, through the couple days, they were cordial. They were talking. I shared some of his last stories. Like, he was normal. He was normal. He was not what was portrayed of him. Stories don't lie. Text messages don't lie. Like, I can't make this up. That Saturday, he was walking around because he couldn't get in contact with Cody. He was like moping. He's like, I don't know what's going on. I can't get in contact with Cody. He's supposed to be in Florida. He's trying to figure out what's actually going on. He wanted to talk to his son. He has messages to her sister. Like, is Cody with y'all? Is he okay? Like, that's what a normal person's supposed to do that care about their son. You know how many young people out here that don't take care of their kids or not family? He cared. He cared about his family. So through that, again, they conversated throughout Sunday. They conversated throughout the day. They went back and forth. Some of the messages were shared. He, by no means, had the impression that they weren't together. Okay, so we been married 25 years. We ain't been together a lot of times during the 25 years, but have we ever really, like, not been together? Like, let's be honest. 25 years. That's how long we've been married. How many times have we not been together in 25 years? But we still sitting right here today. So this completely broken up, not together, I'm sure that's not what he actually believed in his heart. Hers, maybe. Then, so I don't give views because at the end of the day, to be honest with you, I ain't watch video 1 or 2 because it don't matter. You won't get a like or a view from me. But I did hear some bits and pieces about it. You say on that particular video, when you talk about my son, my deceased son, who was your caretaker, when you talk about him, you say you know how people do back and forth. We all know what we doing. We all with different people. No, I don't know that. You know that? Oh, yeah. We don't understand that. I'm sure our son didn't either. He wasn't really raised like that. He wasn't raised with all him and his siblings having like different fathers, you know, back and forth, not in the home. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't raised like that. So where you insinuated that everybody should know, you know, how people do, we don't know that. So I'm sure he didn't. I could speak for him on that. So when we went to trial is when most of this stuff opened up. Now, the murderer was offered a plea deal. He was offered
3 to 8.
3 to 8 years. 3 to 8 years. He turned it down because honestly, in his heart, he felt he did nothing wrong. He felt like he was defending what he thought was his family. I don't know why, but he did. So he turned down the plea deal. Right before trial, I was contacted by his attorney asking if we would, so the family has to be a part of the plea deal. Like, you know, you have to be a part of the agreement. So trial was supposed to start on Monday. We were contacted Friday, late Friday evening, asking was the deal still on the table. And what did we say? No, I can't.
I was thinking about it, but the lawyer said no.
Right. So he was thinking about taking that deal. He probably should have, but he didn't. But God works in mysterious ways. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why God works in mysterious ways. If he would have took that deal, we would not have known none of the stuff that we know today. If he would have took that deal, we wouldn't have known the before and after of what we know today. And as much as it hurt us to sit there in court, not only seeing our son's body shot up, because in court, in trial, you see the real life pictures. Not only seeing him laying there with a bullet to the back of his head, with a bullet to his neck, with 14 bullets to his back. Not only did it hurt us to see that, we learned the truth behind the story. And as hard as it was for us to accept the truth, we learned the truth. We had to sit through testimony. Different people testified. And one of the testimonies were the owner of the home. Her testimony said Tyree lived there. Contrary to what's being told today. Cody's mom was on stand for 2 days. We have 789 pages of transcript. Y'all only saw 14 pages. 14. A transcript is a public record that anybody can obtain. You can hear word for word her story out of her own mouth. I don't have to tell her story. She told her own story. We didn't make this up. We didn't ask for this and we didn't make this up. We have no reason to lie. None at all. Then you heard his story on what he felt like happened. And he didn't really have a story, honestly. He was just as dumb as he looked on the stand. And he honestly looks like somebody that just don't know no better. Like, he just was caught up, just like Tyree was. They was caught up in these looks, material stuff, and they thought they hit the jackpot. And really, both of them hit bankrupt. Both of them. So what may seem like is good is not always good. And I hope that from his story, it changes somebody's life. We have had so many DMs. Oh my God, this is happening to me. I need to get out. Like, please, save yourself. Nobody and nothing is worth your life. He was such a good individual. No matter what these people say about us, our family is unbreakable. And if you don't know that by now, you should know that. your little words of talking about our family don't hurt us. That actually inspire us to go a little bit harder on you. You can't hurt us. You can't break us. We still standing. So you can say he didn't like his family. Okay, that's what you think. I don't have a point to prove. I don't have to prove who my son was to me. He don't got to prove who his son was to him. His brothers don't got to prove who he was to them. That's your misconception. And that's because you came from a broken family and you don't know what a family is. So therefore, we expect someone to say that because of how you feel. So us telling this story has opened up so much light on the case again. So thank you. Continue sharing it. Continue calling. Continue celebrating Tyree's life. Continue. If you don't think it's making a difference, it's making a huge difference. And that's nobody but him above. Nobody. That is Tyree above causing the havoc that he has always caused. Because he's saying, I'm not going to let you. One thing about him, he ain't play about me. Y'all can say what y'all want to say. He will go to the war about his mother. And when that person sent me that message on March 25th, I didn't share it with nobody. Did I share it with you? Mm-mm. I didn't share it with my daughter. I didn't share it with my sons because I already know who they are and what they about. If they would have saw the level of disrespect that was given to me on the message, they saw it when it was posted online. Their raw emotions came when same time you saw it. I'm not messy like that. She sent that message. I said, oh, this what we doing? Okay. Because this big back, whatever she called me, I got you, boo. And by me having you, before I went to custody for his son, I told Miles, I said, I don't want to take Cody from his only surviving parent. I had all the evidence in the world to take Cody. If I could do things again, would I? Probably so. But guess what? Them tables gonna turn. And what seems like something today is not gonna stay that way forever. I was given anonymously, over 3,000 hours of recording after Tyree's death that will write her own fate. And it don't got nothing to do with Tyree. It's her lifestyle that she chose to live. You heard some of the recording, so I have no reason. I'm not making it up. I wouldn't have had a recording of her and her new boyfriend if that wasn't given to me. I wouldn't have a recording of her telling Cody, fuck ZZ. And you know, I had to look at this girl every time she brought Cody to me, knowing she teaching my grandson to say that about me. But God had a better plan, and he got a better plan for me. Fuck ZZ inspires me because it shows me how much I really mean to you. That you would teach your 2-year-old son, to be disrespectful to his blood. How would I get that? I wasn't with you. I wasn't in the car with y'all. And you know what you said in those cars. You know what you said in those homes. So you know what I got. And we're going to leave that there. And we're going to let that case take its own way. For you and whoever else that's involved. Sometimes timing is everything. People write their own fate. What you thought you got away with today, you'll pay for it in another way. And it may not even be Tyree's murder. You cannot be out on the street, walking the streets, and living a foul life. I don't care what you say about me. I don't care what you do. I don't care. Because one thing you can't do, when it comes to mine, I'm going to do what's necessary.
Like she said, I'm Tyree's dad. I've been intaking a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff I've been preparing, looking over, watching things before they viewed, looking at a lot of scenarios. A lot of people here know me and know how I am. I'm a real laid-back type of parent, definitely. Never force my ill will on my kids to tell them what to do or what not to do, what to say or what not to say. I let them grow on their own. But I want to say this to everybody that's out there. Be careful who you let in your house. And that's how I am. Because you got to be real cautious who come in your home. Because the same people that eat at your table is the same people that are shit on your table. And I make myself clear. I don't have to stunt for nobody. Most of my good friends and my good people that know me and my family, that know how I am, I always been about family. And my son carried the same traits. From the day his son was born to the day he was murdered, he had his son in his care. Nobody could tell him nothing different. He didn't leave his son for nothing. The same way I raised him. For me, and like I say, you know who you are. You can talk greasy as you want to greasy about me. You don't know nothing about me. So let me make that self clear. But let me also make sure you understand something clear. COVID started, for everybody that don't understand, March 16th of 2020. All right? March 16th of 2020. You couldn't do eyebrows, you couldn't do lashes, you couldn't paint no nails because you couldn't be around people. I kept a roof over top of your head. I kept food in your mouth. I kept you getting a car to make sure you drive. My son ensured that you had a car that you couldn't pay for. Anybody that had that type of mentality or mindset to take care and provide for you, then so-called we have my grandson, which is my grandson. At the end of the day, he ain't want for nothing. You took him to deprive from him. And I still see where I could put some decent things in his lifestyle. Send him to school and pay for it. Where he was learning his A's, B's, and C's. No public assistance here. He had it. You took from him because you figured that's a way to get back. But what you got back at is depriving your own child not to have a better life than you did. I make myself clear. You deprived him to have a better life than you did, and that's your own child. At the end of the day, what you did, that's between, like my wife said, you and God. But I want to put this out there because it's somebody that need to hear this. I said it before. Be careful who you let in your house. Because you can love people more than people love you. It's going on every day in, day out. People got alternative motives. And the only motive I can read in this whole story is you let somebody get up on somebody. And everybody, definitely young people, it was almost like the play. And y'all ran the play. But I want to clear another part of that statement up. Tyree ain't kicked no door in. Tyree ain't pried no door. He ain't come through the back door. He hit the code. We all got codes on doors. He hit the code on the door. Open the door.
Just like she had to go to our house.
Pretty much.
But would never have to worry about walking in here getting laid out.
But think about this. If I'm going in to get somebody, not taking my shoes off to walk up some steps and open a closed door to not know what's behind the closed door. I'm basically going in there to get in the bed. That's what I'm doing. This could have went either way, y'all. I'm telling y'all, I don't call it honest truth. This could have went either way, and I respect that. But at the end of the day, if Tyree would have known who was in that house, he wouldn't have put himself in that situation. And he was in that situation because of his love of what he thought was genuine. And genuine wasn't nothing but a fraud, a fake, and a phony.
Materialistic.
Exactly what I got. I can tell you over the years, I sat back. These people can't tell you nothing about me because I ain't talked to them like that. And I said just like that. Over the years, I was a high and by guy. You know it. I was a high and by guy. But now I'm going to speak out because I'm going to say this. I got a daughter. No, am I going to disrespect? I got a daughter. God rest her soul, I had a sister. I got a wife and a mother. There's 4 women in my life.
And a niece.
And a niece.
And a granddaughter.
And a granddaughter. 2 granddaughters. All right? So I'm adding all that up, right? Here's my thing. And I go to say this, and those for the ones that's listening. You in a relationship, and what your relationship is about between you and your relationship, right? But when you figure that the relationship is over, you make sure that you understand that the relationship is over. Through this situation, made me really understand that the person that my son loved and thought he had that 100% trust. I don't use the word setup because I never said that, right? But you knew what was going on. You knew what was going on. You knew that when the person that provided for you, took care of you, you thought it was the thing to get up under his skin by running to the other, right? But here's the other part for you. Here, I took 100 pounds of shit to put it in took 100 pounds of shit to put it in a 10-pound bag. I had to go pick a man up to bring a man to my house. When I had a man that could come see me in his own vehicle. I don't make this stuff up. This stuff not made up. This is exactly what it is. But through love and respect, my man respected you. Nobody lived like the Cosbys, and I'm going to say that 100 times. Nobody I know lived like the Cosbys. Everybody got their issues. But one of the dangerous things you can ever mess with is inviting another man into another man's home. That's fine, point blank. Because I know Tyree, I knew Tyree pretty well. He wouldn't have did, if the shoe was on the other foot, it wouldn't have been the same thing. Because he had respect and decency. And he had some morals. But I had to get that off my chest. I say this about my grandson because at the end of the day when my wife started this out, and like she told y'all, it came from a text message that was developed on Easter. I had already had my sayings back at Christmas. And on Christmas, I made a call to say, hey, you know, I like to say Merry Christmas to my grandson. And it was fuck you type situation and hung the phone up. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I cut it off there for me.
You did.
I cut it off there for me. We went through the little court proceedings. I cut things off because here's my take on the situation. I can't go beyond whatever somebody want me to do, and that's fine. I have no issue with that. But what I can say, and I've had a few friends that been in that situation coming up, and I remember my past. What I can say is I feel sorry because my grandson has got the same blood, and this blood, that same blood that you laid with and had a baby with is my blood. It's a Richardson blood. And the son only got the same blood his daddy got. And I'm going to tell you this. Tyree Boy was a pistol coming up. And you going to have hell on your hands to deal with that young man by yourself. Mark my words.
So again, you know, we just wanted to take this opportunity. It's not to bash nobody. Like, we beyond that. Let them live in their whatever, their materialistic mindsets. Like, I go to work every day. My life is taken care of. Like, I don't need social media. And for all the people that say that we monetize off of this, check your facts. I ain't monetized $1. His account is not monetized at all. This is all for the story for my grandson. When you have your own money, you ain't got to find ways to make money. So maybe you should learn that. Get your own. But this is not monetized. Story has been told, not sold. Any blogger, any article, any news outlet that reached out to me, let me know what I asked you for. Or what you paid me in return outside of the story. Show them receipts, because you ain't got them. It's not for money. I don't do things for money. My son's life wasn't about money. I'll give up everything I got to see my child again. Everything. I would give up my last breath to give him breath. I absolutely would. When you born off of materialistic stuff, that's how you think. That's how your mindset is. That's not how we are over here. And so if you thought this was about money, you thought wrong. This is for Cody when he gets older to see what it really is. And when he does, I'm going to pray for you. Because like I said, at the end of the day, when he turned 18, 19, whatever age he is, Cody, we got your father chain for you. It won't get touched till we see you again. We got all his money that he put up. That's all yours. I don't need that. That's why I go to work every day. That's why I have a job. Take care of myself. I don't need none of that. All Tyree stuff that he had, we ain't seen. We got a few pieces. I don't know if it's being saved for the boy to get out. I don't know. But I wish you the best, because that materialistic stuff don't mean nothing to us. But what will mean, when Cody's old enough, he will get what his father had for him. He will be taken care of. Unfortunately, now, it is what it is. To Cody, I love you. I love you like you were my own son. No, I don't want to be your mother, as it was accused. I want to be your grandmother. I have 4 other grandchildren. I wanted to do what my son would have done for you outside of the life that they portrayed that we did. We will always be here for you. You will always be our family. As long as you okay, we okay. And I'm okay with that. I can't allow someone to destroy, try, not destroy, because you'll never destroy. I'm bigger than that, baby. Way bigger than that. Try to destroy who I am, what we believe in. You'll never be able to accomplish that. Because I know who I am. I know what I say. I know what my beliefs are. I don't hide behind social media. And I'm damn sure not hiding behind nobody else. It won't happen. And when the day comes, you'll know just as well as everybody else. Because this isn't a game of revenge. God has his own vengeance. His own. That's bigger than me. What I would want to happen, God has a whole nother plan. And when you turn your life over, what you probably need to do, you'll learn that. It took me a while. And you're right. It's not a day that I don't cry. Absolutely. I absolutely do. It's not a day that I don't wake up sad. Yes, I absolutely do. It's not a day that goes by that I don't think about my son throughout the day, multiple times. 2 years later. My days don't get better. And I don't expect them to. But what I'm not going to do is let his name die in vain. So, again, thank you for everybody, all your support. We've seen it. Everybody that's been watching, like, it's surprisingly, you can walk past me and I know you watching the story. It's okay to say, I'm praying for you. Like,
keep your head up.
Keep your head up. You don't have to, like, hide that you're watching it. It's supposed to be watched for a reason. So, you can say that. I also want to thank everybody that shared the story and continue to share the story. We are, Tyree's album is going to be released. He had 31 unreleased songs. It took me 2 years. I control everything that comes out of his portfolio. It took us 2 years to release. And when I tell you it's probably his best album, I keep saying every time I listen to it, he knew. He knew. And when you get to experience these 31 songs, you're going to say the same thing. Keep his legacy alive. People always say God doesn't make mistakes. I go to church. I'm a God-fearing person, but I think God made a mistake on this one. He took someone way too soon. If it was a car accident, I might could accept it a little bit better. If it was a freak accident, I might could accept it a little bit better. This is hard for me to accept. And I understand. We don't know our day, time, minute. But if I could have spoken to God, I would have rather I lived my life. I did everything I was supposed to do to allow someone else to just get a few more minutes, a few more seconds. It would have been worth it. He left his legacy. His album will be released on his birthday. We are grateful for all the love and all the support. Yes, each day is hard. Each day continues to be hard. This isn't made up. Like we don't have no makeup crew. We don't got no TV crew. This is real life. It's real life, raw emotions.
When law enforcement located the shooter less than 24 hours later, hiding in the woods, the arrest ignited a firestorm of reactions. Some saw it as immediate accountability. Others saw it as the beginning of a longer, darker reckoning. And for those closest to Tyree, it was merely step one in a nightmare that would stretch into months, then years. In interrogation rooms, the stories shifted, tightened, reshaped themselves into something more palatable: fear, panic, sudden reaction, no alternative. But the prosecutors saw the same cracks the detectives saw. They reviewed the autopsy. They reviewed the evidence trajectory. They reviewed the statements that had been posted publicly, some that contradicted earlier accounts, some that revealed more than intended. A case like this never has one truth. It has layers of truth, stacked on top of choices, secrets, loyalties, and lies. When the courtroom doors finally opened, the air was thick with expectation. Tyree's family sat together not because they were looking for closure, but because they refused to let him be forgotten. They watched as photos of his injuries were displayed, as forensic experts explained the mathematics of gunfire, as witnesses recounted the events before and after the shooting. Each detail was its own kind of blade. The defense painted a story of fear: a man startled awake, reacting instinctively, firing because he believed he was in danger. The prosecution countered with angles, with bullet patterns, with the overwhelming disparity between threat and response. The jurors listened to both sides, not just with their ears, but with the silent weight of responsibility pressing against their ribs. And then there were the digital footprints, live streams, posts, conversations, fragments of personal narrative that, intentionally or not, shaped the tone of the trial. Words spoken casually or carelessly became evidence. The demeanor shown to an audience became part of the state's argument. The public watched, dissected, debated, sometimes with compassion, sometimes without mercy. But no matter which story anyone believed, one fact stood alone. 16 bullets had torn through a young man who arrived unarmed. The trial stretched on. Tyree's mother cried silently in the back row. His father sat rigid, jaw clenched in a grief so heavy it felt immovable. To them, this wasn't about law. It wasn't about narrative. It wasn't about which attorney delivered a more polished argument. It was about the son they raised, the boy who used to run through their home with laughter echoing behind him, the teenager who made music in his room, the young father who lifted his child with pride glowing in his eyes. In the end, the jury delivered a conviction not for murder, but for voluntary manslaughter and related charges. The shooter received years behind bars. But for Tyree's family, the verdict tasted like unfinished truth. It acknowledged the crime, but not the full darkness they believed lived behind it. It punished the act, but not the circumstances they felt led to it. And their questions didn't stop at the courtroom doors. They wanted to know why Tyree walked into a home he should have been safe in, only to die there. They wanted to know whether the relationships in that house had fractured into something far more dangerous than anyone admitted. They wanted to know why the aftermath unfolded the way it did, the delayed call, the contradictory statements, the choices made in the minutes following the gunfire. Most of all, they wanted to know whether their son had walked into a situation he never had a chance of surviving. Grief like theirs is not a moment. It is a landscape vast, uneven, and filled with places where pain settles and refuses to leave. They carry his memory with them everywhere. They speak his name in present tense because accepting the past tense feels like betrayal. They find him in photos, in videos, in the small fingerprints he left on the lives he touched. And somewhere within that grief, there is a child, young, innocent, unable to understand the depth of what he has lost. A boy who will grow up hearing stories about the father he will never know. A boy whose life will always carry an empty space where Tyree should have been. That, more than anything, is the real tragedy. Not the headlines, not the court case, not the arguments online, but a child who deserved a father who deserved a future, and a life that ended not in a moment of rage, but in a moment of trust. What happened in that bedroom will forever ripple outward, through families, through communities, through time, through every person who listens to Tyree's story and asks themselves how love, fear, ego, and betrayal could converge into violence so devastating. In the end, there are no perfect answers, only a young man whose light was cut short, a family left shattered, and a truth carved in the silence that followed 16 shots. And as we close this story, one final thought lingers. Some tragedies are not just crimes. They are warnings, reminders of how fragile human choices are, and how quickly the people we love can be taken from us. May Tyrie Richardson's memory never be forgotten.